Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back to another episode. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the West and how it's not fallen. Yeah, that's right.
Bruh.
I know this might seem like a bit of a surprise to a lot of you guys out there, but the reality is that the West has anything but fallen. And if you look around you and you kind of see what's going on and you dig a little deeper, you quickly start to see and you quickly start to find out that the West has not fallen. And in fact, you out there in the audience, just like me, might be looking for a way out, might be looking for a way to not be there anymore in the first world. And you're looking to, for example, maybe perhaps looking to move to Mexico. The reality is that, you might not want to be in the first world anymore. You might have grown tired with the first world and the way things are going, in your neck of the woods. But guess what? There's about 7 billion people, 6 billion people. There's a lot of people out there that would argue otherwise. And this. Sure, there might not be that many immigrants coming from Mexico into the USA or Canada these days. But hey, guess what? There's people from all over the world. There's plenty of places all over the world. You can go to Eastern Europe. You can go to other countries in Latin America. You can go to Africa. I mean, many places in Asia in which, things are not going that well. Sure, there might be a lot of people like you and me going to many other parts of the world like that and thinking, hey, it's great to be out here in Mongolia. Hey, I can be a digital nomad, out here in Nigeria. Or, out here in, I don't know, Georgia, the country.
Huh?
Or, again, pick another Latin American country that is not Mexico per se. And again, depending on how the economy is going and how things are going within that country in which, you're migrating to, there's plenty of people that are migrating out of there. So again, things in Mexico, for example, a lot of people, have that misconception that Mexico is a third world country or a second world country or second tier, whatever you want to call it. But the reality is that fairly well from watching my videos or watching, other YouTubers out there that have shown you Mexico and will continue to show you Mexico. The reality is that Mexico is, a first world country. That's it. Sure, there are many things about it in which, I discuss on the channel a lot that make it awesome. And, at least for me and for a lot of you guys out there. And when it comes to the culture. And so the culture out here in Mexico is basically like a similar culture to what things used to be in the USA, for example, to many people out there, or even many other, Europeans or Canadians. But the reality is that like I'm learning more and more that I'm really speaking out here more to Canadians and Americans because people that are in Europe, they're looking to, again, immigrate as well. But, going to Mexico or South America is very far from them for them. So a lot of Europeans just end up migrating to other areas around them, which is areas in Eastern Europe, sometimes the Middle East and Africa and Asia. All right. And when it comes to, Mexico and Latin America, it's typically, migrated by a lot of Americans and Canadians. But at the end of the day, as I was saying earlier, the West has not fallen. I mean, I don't want to get into the details, but you can see exactly how the empire just keeps spreading its wings. And, and they just keep getting into more wars or they just keep doing their empire things. And, for some people, they're more than happy, to live in the USA, go USA, go empire, they support or not support, whether you support what's going on in the country or you don't support what's going on in the country, you have some sort of idea that, hey, things are going to work their way out at the end of the day. And hey, I salute you guys, for those of you guys that want to stick it out and be out there. But there's a lot of people out there that have just, again, the USA probably just got too expensive. Like in my case, and I make the case, for a lot of other people out there that are just, regular people. It's gotten too expensive. It's not worth it anymore. For some people, depending on their values and, what they're looking for in life. Again, they can't find that in the USA anymore. And I can go on and on. So a lot of people, again, they're looking to migrate out of the USA and Canada, and they're coming to places like Mexico. But as I keep, telling you, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I've been thinking about the fact that well, who's gonna besides the people that stay in the USA and Canada, who else is gonna put up with everything that's going on over there? Well, guess what? All of these immigrants that are coming from places that are a million times worse than whatever it is you think is going on in the USA. Now, I don't want to sit here and say, oh my God, these first world problems, boo hoo, violin, whatever. Now, what do I mean by first world problems? Well, a lot of the problems that a lot of people have in the USA, Canada, Europe, or what have you, right? The first world, because, let's also kind of clarify what the first world would be. Well, a lot of these problems, eventually they're going to make their way across the globe as the rest of the globe kind of catches up with whatever it is. So a lot of these first world problems that people are having in the USA, well, guess what? They're gonna, they've already kind of made their way out here to Mexico, and they've made their way out to the rest of the world. But depending on the country, depending on the culture, depending on many factors, will be depending on how they handle XYZ situation. And so that's why, again, out here in Mexico, even though they're dealing with all the first world problems, they got all the first world technologies, everything, the West, Mexico is considered the West, believe it or not. Again, spoiler alert,
Bruh.
Mexico is considered the West, even though a lot of people don't know that. And so if it's considered the West, then why is it doing so much better than, let's say, the USA or Canada when it comes to handling a lot of these cultural issues that are affecting a lot of people these days? And I don't want to get into like the whole politics situation, because that's part of it, but another part of it is like again, just people being obsessed with technology and the Instagrams and the Facebooks of the world. I mean, again, a lot of these modern problems that are happening where you are also happening over here, and I could go on and on. There's, the thing is that, as I said, out here, because there's different values, there's a different system, there's a different culture, they handle it differently, and then some things take hold and some things don't take a hold. Another aspect that I've mentioned a lot is the fact that just like in the USA, you can't find people to work. Well, you can't find people to work in Mexico either, meaning, for remedial jobs, very hard to fill remedial jobs. Now in the USA, unfortunately, many people, the reason they don't fill a lot of these remedial jobs is because, well, the government will subsidize their living. They'll just send them a check to stay home and do nothing. All right. And again, if you do the math in certain situations, hey, you actually get paid more to stay at home than actually go work at KFC or Burger King or Walmart. But in Mexico, people don't have that option, right? And like I've discussed before, I was surprised at how much a Mexican makes these days at Burger King or McDonald's or Walmart. They're basically making, after taxes, about 125, 150 bucks a week. And in the USA, you're working one of those remedial jobs. After taxes, you're taking home around 250. And you already know that the expenses are completely different out here than they are over there. So, again, as I was saying earlier, the reality is that the West, sure, there's a lot of things wrong with it, but the real reality is that it's gotten expensive. Look, I know that certain places, like Canada, have kind of really fallen, or, other parts in Europe, and again, certain states in the USA. But look, I've already mentioned it many times before. There's plenty of people out there that can still make it in the USA. Americans, okay, not immigrants, like Americans. And again, look, you don't have to look too far away. You can simply go and watch a typical NFL game or a baseball game, and those things have just keep selling out over and over again, right? People keep buying all that merchandise, people going to the mall and buying things. Look, maybe people are not buying things at the mall traditionally like they used to, but they sure are consuming. You can go and check how Amazon's doing and how other companies are doing out there, and sure, a lot of it is on debt. And that's a whole other story for another day. That's not what we're really going to be discussing here. So going back to, the West and Mexico being part of the West, the thing is that out here, as I was saying, with just like the job situation, out here, not only with a remedial job, people can go on ahead and, make around 150 US dollars a week. And, they're okay with that. A lot of them are not okay with that because they themselves know that they can be making more. And so a lot of Mexicans out here, again, just because of what we discussed before, on the channel, when we talk about business and we talk about other subjects, again, if you're interested in these things, please check out the rest of the channel. Go on ahead and hit the like button if you like this kind of content, if you're enjoying it, subscribe if you're interested, or even go check out my website. Again, joseartiaga.com. I got tons of free information, just tons of free information that you can go on and, continue your research, as you're looking into perhaps moving to Mexico. But as I was saying, the typical Mexican, sure, they're pretty fine, on just having a remedial job. They can make, again, a typical Mexican these days, they can go on ahead and work a remedial job, all right, and maybe have a little bit of a side hustle, and that's plenty for a single person to support a family, believe it or not. In the USA, you got to have both parents working, and I can go on and on to really support a family. But what I was saying is the fact that out here, there's a lot more choice, when it comes to, hey, how you're going to make a living. A lot more Mexicans out here, again, if they want, they have a very low barrier to entry when it comes to starting their own business. So a lot of Mexicans just go on ahead and start their own business, and they just go down that route. And a lot of immigrants that come out here do the same thing. And again, because of that, well, it helps really boost the economy, and it helps really move, upwards. And I'm sure a lot of businesses out there and a lot of jobs with remedial pay, even though the remedial pay is not that bad, are not filling those jobs. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, all that's going to do is that, again, people are either going to just start their own business, start their own thing, keep the entrepreneurship, whole idea alive, or it's going to force these businesses to offer more money, more benefits, more whatever, in order to get people in the door. And again, it just keeps naturally increasing and bettering the economy. And, in a place like the USA, unfortunately, things, if you are an American, okay, and, again, the longer you've been in America, remember, I was born in the USA, but my parents came from Cuba. So I'm basically first generation. It was me and my sister, and I got cousins and stuff like that. I'm the only one that has left. All right. But most of my family, the majority of my family is in the USA, and they're, loving and living the dream. But for many Americans, kind of like the longer you've been in America, in a sense, the more you realize, hey, wait a minute, my dollar isn't going as far as it used to. Hey, wait a minute, I got to work a lot harder than what I used to. Hey, wait a minute, why are things more difficult? Why am I getting less? All the things that you talk about and complain about. But think about an immigrant that just stepped off of the boat. They just, landed in, on Plymouth Rock, they just saw the Statue of Liberty for the first time, whatever, however they got to the USA. But anyways, they got to the USA or Canada, and, they're seeing what they have around them, which is like, oh my God, this is a modern first world country. Oh my goodness, I can get paid in dollars. Oh my God, I get paid and so much money. I'll take this job than the typical American or Canadian is not going to take. I'll do it. I'll take this job. And sure, what can I afford? Because I need to not only make American dollars, but I probably want to send money back to my country. So I gotta live in squalor. But then when I look at what living in squalor is like in the USA, I'm like, bro, this is like a million times better than Africa, or a million times better than Nicaragua, or a million times better than wherever the hell I come from. You know what I mean? Like, it just is. Again, it's not for everyone. There's a lot of immigrants that are coming to the first world, especially these days, that are they come to the first world and they see what's around them. They're like, oh my God, they cannot wait to go back home and live the life that you're looking into living, and the one that I live out here, which is awesome, living out here in Mexico, living out here in any other part of the world that is not this first world, Western world. Again, even though Mexico is part of the Western world, they're not really part of this first world, Western world in a sense. They're not participating in the sense here. It's not as ingrained as it is in the USA, because like I said, here the typical Mexican can still survive and make it. The typical Mexican, or the Mexican country, the country of Mexico, is not reliant on immigrants in order for them to, build and boost their economy or stay afloat. Sure, they want immigrants and they would love immigrants to stay here, but most of them end up just crossing straight to the USA or making their way to the USA or Canada for, again, obvious reasons. Some can say a free handout. Some can say what I was saying earlier about, getting the, achieving the American dream, which is still alive and well. For many people that are coming to the USA, or Canada. But, another aspect to all this is the fact that, this whole idea of the American dream has been exported to the rest of the world. So, again, this whole idea of the American dream, the fact that, it's not just, the haves and the have-nots, but the fact that, the have-nots can also, work hard enough or, again, figure it out, to make their way up that ladder in order to achieve that dream and make it to the haves. All right. And again, what is, being rich? All right. Being rich is something very different to a lot of people. Some people it's just plain old money. For some people, it's freedom. And that's something we've discussed many times out here before, on this channel. So again, out here, let's just say that you come out here as an immigrant and you start working as a typical Mexican. Listen, it's going to be hard and it's going to be difficult and you're going to be living the life of an immigrant. And, I can go on and on. It's, the pay, the pay is not going to be on par with what you might be used to and all these other things. Okay. But again, if you do the math, you're going to find out real quick that you are in a better position out here and you have more options out here than you do over there, wherever you're from. But for a lot of people, like I said, that are coming from, really bad situations from all over the world these days, well, guess what? Yeah, sure, they might have a great opportunity in Mexico, but they're going to have an even better opportunity in the USA if they can get to the USA, which is still considered the promised land, the land of milk and honey for many people. So again, there's I can go on and on about, the whole idea of the West has not fallen. And I'm going to give you some more examples. Right now, you got to remember that, there's this big giant crisis that's happening around the world when it comes to, birth rates and when it comes to, the fact that there's aging populations all over the world. Let me name two major countries that have an aging population that have no way to reverse it. And that's China and Russia. China and Russia, which are these two super mega powers, well, guess what? They need to figure out a way to make more babies, to make more Russians and Chinese people. And, Chinese people, they're not really, a lot of people talk about racism in the USA, but again, go visit China, go visit some other parts of the world, and you're going to see, how well they do with foreigners. So in China, it's just Chinese people. They're not mingling with anybody else. They ain't got no immigrants that they're mingling with and, creating more population. Same thing as in Russia. But guess what? In Europe, even though some countries kind of followed that same motto of homogeneity or whatever it's called, because of the whole immigrant crisis in Europe, well, guess what? They're being forced to, populate. Okay? And guess what? The same thing is happening in the USA and Canada, especially in the USA. I don't want to get into all the numbers, but you guys know how many immigrants have come across those borders in the last several years. And, a lot of people have no idea why that is, but I'm telling you why that is, my theory as to why that is. And I think it's just, again, to make sure that, our population, we got a lot of strong men available to fight, to defend freedom, okay, and to build the nation, once it crumbles, because we already know it's crumbling, right? But that's not going to be you or me. Again, that's why you're looking at videos like this. You're looking for a way out. And, you're wondering, about whether or not the West has fallen or whether it's going to fall or whether the dollar is going to fall and all these other things. But the reality is that it's not. The world is changing. The world is going to change. And there's going to be a lot of crises that are going to happen, going forward. And there's going to be currency crisis, not just in the US dollar, but, all over the world. But again, don't kid yourself to think that, the US dollar is just going to fall and disappear. And there's going to be a BRICS or, Chinese yuan or whatever it is. The reality is that it's not. We don't know what's going to happen. But the reality, but anyone that really knows what's going on or just, looks a little deeper into what's going on. Yeah, no, the empire is not falling. The empire is just, again, they're basically bringing everything down to rock bottom so that they can rebuild again, the same thing that they've always done. And, some people, want to be around for that, and some people don't want to be around for that. If you really understand and know your history, you probably don't want to be around for that. If you are, don't know what's going on, then you probably will stick around, and, hope for the best. Again, there's plenty of people that I know, that are doing very well in the USA, and, they're going to keep doing better and better. The West has not fallen. It's not just the USA, but there's many other parts of the world. Now, again, rough times are coming. They're going to be difficult times coming. And for a lot of people out there, in which this is their first recession or their first downturn in the economy, those are the ones that are really, not used to this, and they have no idea what's going on. We also got to remember that the last time that we had any kind of like recession or any kind of thing like this was 2008. All right. And I know a lot of people can argue that it never stopped, ever since that moment, but we did have an upturn in the economy, and I feel like we're going to have a similar thing. It's just that nowadays, we have this thing called, YouTube and social media, and so a lot of people out there are overblowing it. And a lot of people out there, they are betting for the whole thing to just crash. But, unfortunately, that's not going to happen. It's just not. And, there's nothing really pointing at it's going to happen. If you go back far enough in history, again, just in the last 100 years, you don't have to go that far back, but just in the recent, 50 years of the U.S. history, okay? 60 years of U.S. history, you've seen that this has already happened multiple times, and it's been on a gradual downturn every decade or so, and this is nothing new. And sure, recently we've thought that we've had a lot of threats, the empire has had threats, the West is having threats, to it falling, whether it's to China, to the East, and so on and so forth, but I don't see that happening. I see that, we're just going to be seeing a reconfiguring of what we know, meaning that, we are under this system, all right now, in which, a lot of us think that it's never going to be able to change. But the reality is that the system is changing. And it's not just the monetary system, but also political system. Remember, everything that's going on with technology, AI, and I can go on and on, on that subject, on a rant going down that route. But as the old saying goes, the grass is always greener on the other side. And so for a lot of you guys out there that are watching this video or watching videos on my channel or just thinking about, hey, I want to move to Mexico, I want to, get out of Dodge. Well, the reality is that for you, it probably is a lot greener for you over here in Mexico for a lot of the obvious reasons, that you already know, because you only know yourself and what you want. Some of you guys are looking for a little bit more of a financial freedom. Some of you guys are looking for, a better retirement option. A lot of you guys are looking for freedom. A lot of you guys are looking for, being able to have a smaller barrier to entry when it comes to business and being able to really set up and do your business out here. And I can go on and on. There's so many reasons as to why a lot of you guys out there are watching these videos and are interested in moving to Mexico or moving abroad. But as I was saying earlier, there's so many more other people that are more than happy to take your place in the empire. So unless you are willing to be 1,000% loyal to the empire, whatever happens, well, then they don't want you, nor do they need you there. Again, unless you're going to be there to, fill a prison cell, be on the streets, or, anything of the sort, when it comes, again, just being a working cog in the machine, or you already know, we've talked about it multiple times on the channel. Unless you're willing to be a willing participant in everything that's going on over there, they don't want you. So you can just go on ahead and be somewhere else, all right, wherever that is. All right. And that's it. You're still American in Mexico. You're still American in Argentina, in the Philippines, in, Eastern Europe, wherever it is you end up. You're still going to be American. Don't worry about it. All right. And trust me, the U.S., make sure that you don't forget about it either. The good and the bad. Bruh. Again, I can't really speak for Canada or other parts of the world, but again, for anyone out there that is from the West, aka the first world, well, if you don't want to be there, they don't want you. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. And that's it. That's the way I feel. That's the way I see, that, they are taking all this immigration, in a sense, where, sure, there are certain countries, in certain areas and, certain, we've talked about it again on the channel, in which, you can go and try to go to the Mexican consulate in your country, and, they're making it very, very difficult for you to leave the country. And, we've talked about it again, the difficulties as to what it is to leave the country, because it seems very easy at first, I can just pack my bags, sell my stuff, come out to Mexico, and I'm good to go. Well, not really. You're still going to be tied down to your country, and especially if you're an American. And depending on who you are, depending on how difficult that's going to be, because again, the more tied down you are to the system, the more difficult it's going to be for you, and the more difficult they're going to make it for you to do it. In my sense, when everything happened to me, basically they were almost kicking me out of the system, kicking me off the grid. I didn't even have a bank account. I was too poor for that. So it was a lot easier for me to come to Mexico and, in a sense, cut ties with the U.S. Even though I have never cut ties, I can't cut ties. It's impossible to cut ties with the USA. And so that's the thing, at the end, for many people out there, they're just looking for a better option. Again, there's many people that are watching my videos. Not everybody is looking to come out to Mexico like me and just live out here in peace and quiet. Again, I basically live in the equivalent of the jungle. I married a beautiful Mexican wife, and I got my dog, and we're just living out here in paradise, living our life. Again, yeah, sorry. I also got a horse. Of course. A horse, of course. It talks. Bruh. Anyways, the point is that, I'm living my dream out here. I'm living my American dream out here. Again, Mexico is America. It's North America, right? But anyways, I'm living my American dream out here. But other people have different dreams or different lives. Some of you guys just want to live on the other side of the border, or some of you guys already live on the other side of the border. Some of you guys just want to live in Tijuana, or live in Baja, or live in, on the beach. There's many places. There's many different lifestyles. Some of you guys want to, again, you are tired of living in New York City or Chicago, and you live, you're young and you have a certain, kind of lifestyle. Well, you might go to Guadalajara or Mexico City, and I can go on and on. There's many people out there that are interested in coming out to Mexico for many different reasons. And with that being said, again, a lot of Mexicans, they are now thinking to themselves, why would I ever leave Mexico if I have the same opportunities? Not only do I have the same or better opportunities here, but again, look at all these gringos, look at all these expats, look at all these foreigners coming out here to Mexico to take these high quality jobs or be able to live high quality lives. So why would I want to go to their countries and live a lower quality life? Okay, so that's at least the Mexican case. Again, I can't say that for every country out there. There's many countries out there, and not every country is the same. Some countries, the people that are living there, they cannot wait to get out of there. It's not necessarily the best spot, for them to live in. Again, like just look at many Eastern European countries, a lot of Latin American countries in which there are not that many opportunities for the locals, for them to, be able to, kind of like, again, rise up and as a, not just personally, but economy wise and all this other stuff. But again, that's another subject for another day. What we're really trying to, get at here is the point that, the U.S., has not fallen. The West has not fallen. Europe has not fallen yet. Again, there's many ways in which we can talk about this, in which is, I know a lot of you guys will disagree with me and say that, no, the West has fallen. The West, of course, the West has fallen. The West has been taken over, by all of these entities, all of these immigrants, all of this, whatever. But again, this is the same kind of conversation. This is kind of like the same rhetoric that you've been hearing since, again, people were coming out here, through Ellis Island, over 100 years ago, again, whether you were Italian or Polish or, whatever part you were coming from, or again, in my generation, there was a lot of, people coming from Cuba, from Latin America, and so on and so forth. So, there's a lot of immigrants in the USA. The USA is, in fact, the land of the immigrants, and it's just going to keep building, that thing's just going to keep going. And so again, you got to remember that for a lot of people, where they're coming from is, no bueno. And so the USA is just a really good option for them to just be out, and start, the American dream, in which, the whole idea of American dream, or, being able to rise above the ranks, being able to, again, just the whole idea of, what the American dream encompasses, in which case that, again, most part of the world, the majority of the world, and the majority of the world throughout history has always been the haves and the have-nots. And ever since, the USA started this thing called the United States of America, and they said, hey, wait a minute, we want to live in a land of the haves and the have-nots, but also allow some of these have-nots to, I don't know, maybe rise up the ranks and, perhaps become one of us, the haves. And so that idea was so wild and so crazy and so, again, a lot of people kind of wanted that. So a lot of people, came from all over the world to the United States in order to achieve that dream. But as time went on, many countries around the world, they kind of started following that whole idea and instilled, this thing called democracy or, constitutions, rights to humans, and all this other stuff. And then they kind of set up a similar system, and depending on the country, depending on the system, and depending on the rights. But anywho, at the end of the day, this whole idea spread like wildfire. And now whenever you see any kind of revolution, whenever you see any kind of big change in the population where people are demanding a better quality of life, a better government, a better, governance, they always kind of go with this whole idea of democracy and the whole idea of what the American dream encompasses, which is, again, the fact that, everyone is basically equal and capitalism reigns supreme. And so with that being said, a lot of people will basically say to you, yeah, capitalism has reigned supreme for so long that look at what it's turned the USA into. But again, I encourage you guys to read a history book and just go down the history books, and just kind of see that this whole idea of corporations, this whole idea of, a lot of people with a lot of power, a small group of people with a lot of power is nothing new. It's been going on for a long time. And all that really happens, during these times, these very difficult and hard times, is that there's just a giant wealth transfer. That's really all that kind of happens. And so, right now, the wealth transfer, in a sense, is happening, from the USA, down south, to, let's say, Mexico or other parts of the world. But the USA is still the richest country in the world. They are, even if, again, the dollar falls, which, again, if you kind of look at what, how global, trade happens, it's kind of like a ludicrous idea to even think that it would fall, because a lot of countries just base their whole economy on the dollar. They don't base it on any other currency, and they don't want to. But even if it does fall, I've discussed many times on this channel where, I think that, it's not going to be the end of it. The dollar has fallen multiple times, and they just create a new dollar. Yeah, for a lot of you guys that are old enough to remember, the last time that it fell was under Nixon, when we went off the gold standard. And again, we have way more to go. We have way more debt to accumulate. Okay, China has us beat when it comes to debt. And again, we got the rest of the world beat when it comes to, the fact that we have a military base all over the world. And even though the English Empire, was the empire that was called, the empire in which the sun never set. Well, guess what? So is the USA. In fact, we're in outer space. We're all over we're everywhere. All right. Forget just the US. Forget just the world. But with all that being said, again, it took a long time for that empire to fall. It took a long time for other empires to fall. And even after they've fallen, even, let's say, the Roman Empire, because that's the new empire in which everyone compares the USA to, or the West to, or whatever, the influences are still there. And, just because you come to Mexico does not mean that, the West, has fallen. It does not mean that it does not mean that a lot of these ideals are, dead. A lot of these things that you might be escaping. Sure. They might not be out here, to the same capacity as they are over there. And a lot of these things that you're leaving, they might not ever even take root out here in Mexico. Okay. You guys can figure out a lot of these things that I'm dancing around, these, subjects. But with that being said, this is the West. This is really the West. And if you want to live exactly how you lived in the USA or Canada, you can do so out here, and you're going to be paying the same prices. Again, we've talked about this many times. A lot of people come out to Mexico and they complain as to how Mexico is more expensive or just as expensive as the USA. Well, yeah, if you want to live exactly the same, then it's going to be expensive. But if you want to live just a very humble, normal, regular life, you can do that for like $1,500 a month. All right. And if you don't have that much money, again, for whatever the reason, let's say you hit rock bottom. Let's say that, you had a major, traumatic event happen to you and you got to start from the beginning all over again. There's many situations in which, you cannot afford, many things in life, and you're just trying to start to make it all the way from the bottom all the way to the top again. And, Mexico's a place where you can come do that. Again, if you work hard enough, if you hustle enough, if you, again, make it happen, you got to do it. You can, get back up from your bootstraps out here and definitely, make it. I've, shown you guys that it can be done. And I know that there's plenty of other people that have done it as well. And again, why did I choose to come to Mexico to do it? Well, because again, I didn't want to just be a regular cog in the machine and go work a job. Look, there's plenty of jobs I could have worked in the USA, and I could have, probably made it if I, was interested in another thing. But in my mindset, again, I've told you guys what I wanted out of my life. I wanted freedom, and I wanted to do what I wanted to do. I really wanted to live my life to its fullest. And I was really enjoying the whole YouTube thing. And I was like, all right, let's keep doing this. And well, now I'm a YouTuber, and this is what I love to do. And not just a YouTuber, I'm a content creator. I'm a whatever it is I do. I make videos, I make, podcasts. I make a lot of content out there that helps a lot of people, and at the same time, entertains a lot of people. And, there's just, many things to what I do, but I get to do it out here. And believe it or not, I really don't make that much money from what I do. But again, as a struggling artist, I can do that out here. I can come out here and struggle. I can, live my dream of just making videos and helping people out. And that's plenty of money for me to survive and live and support a family. I mean, how crazy is that? Where in the USA, it's not. You can't really live that dream. If you want to just, be an artist, you also have to have a regular job, and you got to do regular job things. Sure, I kind of had to work a little bit, as I told you guys before at the very beginning when I first got here over 5 years ago, but eventually, I was able to survive on my own, because to me, it was just like, man, I would rather just eat, eggs and beans for another week as opposed to take that job that I don't want to take. And that's like the freedoms that you can really have out here. Where in the U.S., it's like, no, you got to take that job just to eat the beans and the eggs and to afford rent and to afford this and that. So, with all that being said, guys, I think we're going to wrap this bad boy up. I think we've talked about this enough, and I hope you guys enjoyed, watching, today's video. As you guys already know out there, for, some of you new viewers out there, we like to talk about all kinds of topics that other channels don't talk about. And I like to show you all kinds of, parts of Mexico that other people don't show you. And so I hope you guys enjoyed what I was showing you in today's video, not just what I was talking about in today's video. And for all you guys out there that are my members, my patrons, all of you guys that support me and the channel and everything we do here and help support the community, I love, again, a big shout out to all of you guys, a big love you guys, to, all of you guys out there. And I want to give, again, a big shout out to every single one of you guys, because without you, well, this will be a lot more difficult. But no, the reality is, again, this is what I've said earlier before, you guys are the ones that end up paying my salary. And, I work for you in a sense. And so how do I work for you? Well, by providing, as much information and content that you guys can bear. Because I know I provide a lot, and there's a lot, for you to digest. And that's why, again, I provide, many, easy to follow playlists on my channel. I have a website. I got so much information. It's all condensed, okay? Because I know I talk a lot and I go on rants and I know how I can get. But that's why I've tried to condense it as much as possible and just, again, provide as much free information as you want. Now, for some of you guys out there that might be interested in reaching out to me and talking to me one-on-one, might be interested in a one-on-one video call consultation, again, please reach out to me. All you got to do is just go to my website, send me an email, and that's it. You know what I mean? It's very easy. And if you're interested in doing that, that'll save you a lot of time, and you don't have to sift through all the free information that I provide for you out there. But again, all you got to do is simply, go to my website, And depending on whether you're coming to Merida, Yucatan, or you're going to another part of Mexico, will depend on what kind of information you're going to be able to find useful there or not. But if you're coming out here to Merida, again, I've mentioned it many times before, you can reach out to my lawyer. You can reach out to, Stephanie, which is, again, my assistant, your assistant. She can be your translator. She can help you out with many things. There's many other things that are very helpful on the website. If you're going to other parts of Mexico, again, I got other useful things on the website, things to help you, with the language, things to help you with banking, things to help you with, again, so many other, aspects of moving to Mexico or living in Mexico that a lot of you guys probably haven't even thought of yet until you get here. So with all that being said, if you're thinking about moving to Mexico and you're interested of, leaving the USA or Canada, wherever you are right now, and you want to come out here, please check out the rest of my channel, check out my website, check out all that free information, free content before you pay anyone out there for anything, because you'll quickly find out that, hey, you can probably do it all on your own and do it for free. All right. So with all that being said, guys, that's it. It's a big, huge mouthful. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. It was really fun to record as usual, and you already know the deal. If you like this kind of content, don't forget to please subscribe, please share, please hit the bell icon, but more importantly than anything else, please stay awesome. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.